I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. And you see, I have my Hello 2026 Happy New Year shirt on. I want to wear it more than once. So I'm wearing it today. So Happy New Year. And hey, put in the chat where you're all dialing in from or coming in from today. I would love to see who's all on and where's everybody at. So we got Vegas, Los Angeles. Who else? Fort Collins, Laredo, Texas, Colorado Springs, Bozeman, Chicago, Oklahoma City, Boston, Dallas, Sacramento, Minneapolis, Houston, Bedford, Dallas, Scottsdale, New York City, Dallas, Lynchburg, Tennessee, Philadelphia, Charlotte, Dallas. Great. Is there anybody, Seattle? Okay. Is there anybody coming in from outside of the United States? And Marilyn Lee, you just answered my question. Toronto, Canada. Anyone else? I see Columbus, Ohio, New Mexico. Hi, Tammy. Anyone else? Anyone else want to put in where they're dialing in from? And anybody else dialing in from outside of the United States? Yeah, so you can see on my setup here in my home office here with, you can't see everything here, and then I got my laptop here and the microphone here and the camera over here. So I'll be launching my podcast very shortly. So stay tuned for that announcement. So I've been thinking about doing a podcast for a long time, and it's actually going to come out in 2021, and it's going to be called The Brad Sumrok Show, Apartment Investing and Beyond. And so that ties into what we're talking about tonight, because I want to talk tonight about winning in apartment investing, which is my area of expertise, but I want to talk a little bit about beyond that too. Because to me, look, apartment investing is a vehicle, right? It's a vehicle to achieve financial freedom. There are many vehicles to achieve financial freedom, and apartment investing is the one that I chose. And I'll give you guys a little bit of a background on that here in just a few minutes. But that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about, winning in apartments. And I'm going to cover a lot of information. We'll be done at the top of the hour, I promise you. When I do these 1 hour public trainings, I always like to limit them to an hour, because I don't know about you, but I know when I'm on the opposite side listening in, I usually have about an hour of attention span. And after that, I tend to get distracted or get busy or want to watch TV or, do something else. So this is going to be finished at the top of the hour. So we're going to cover a lot of things, and I'm going to go ahead and open up my slide deck and go ahead and share that. So as I'm doing that, let's see here. We'll go ahead and start this. So you should be able to see my slideshow right now. Okay. So Domenico, you'll be my accountability partner. You good with that? And you can just give me a thumbs up so you can see the screen. Give me a thumbs up. Domenico. Okay, great. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about. Okay. So we're going to talk about apartment investing. And I also want to talk a little bit about beyond that. So this is not really a goal setting workshop. This is more or less like a clarity workshop. And, I know a lot of people have different feelings and opinions about New Year's resolutions. I don't make New Year's resolutions. I make New Year's goals and outcomes and things that I want to achieve in my life. And I have divided my life into 4 different categories. And I'm going to talk about that in just a short minute here or two. And what I'd like to do first is cover what I'm going to cover. So I'm going to do a brief introduction, and this is for everybody, but it's mainly for people that this might be your first time, listening to me speak. So let me ask you this. Is there anybody here that this is your first time listening to me, whether it's a live event or a Zoom training? And if it's your first time, you could just type in first time. So I see Pamela, Jim, anybody else first time? Just 2 of you. Okay. And everybody else has heard me before. Julie. Okay. 3 of you. Well, I'm going to assume there's going to be a few of you that maybe it's your first time. So I'm going to spend a few minutes giving you an introduction about who I am and what I do and why I do it. And then I'm going to dive right into what I call my 4 core values for a successful life. And this is for me. But I guarantee you that you have other things besides investing in money that would be something that would enable you to determine if you're having a successful life And then I'm going to dive right into what I call the Sumrok sequence. And this is the sequence for investing in apartments. And then I'm going to focus on the first 5 or 6 of those steps so that you could hit the ground running and win. Okay. The Sumrok sequence has like 18 to 20 steps, and I'm going to show you what they are, but we're not going to go in depth tonight into that, because if we did, it would take way more than an hour and it would be overwhelming. So I'm going to show you the whole sequence so you can see the big picture, but then we're going to dive into like, what should everybody be doing? And this is whether you're like a newbie. And by the way, if you're a newbie, if you have no previous real estate investing experience, type in newbie. Just go ahead and type that in. And by the way, you're in good hands if you're a newbie, because when I started, I had no previous real estate investing experience. I had 14 years in corporate America, an engineering degree, and an MBA. And I went to a real estate investing seminar 25 years ago in 2001, and I was a newbie. Okay, so newbies, you're in good hands. If you're already investing in real estate, but not multifamily, then type in not multifamily, or just say not yet multifamily. So this would be you if you're doing like single family or Airbnbs or some other sort of asset class, and you're interested in exploring and discovering apartment or multifamily investing in 2026. And then I see some other people that I know that are in my mentoring and mastermind community, or people that I've known for years. And I see some of you on here that like are experienced apartment investors. So if you're an experienced GP, that stands for general partner, type in GP. If you're an LP, which means limited partner, a passive investor, type in LP. And then the last question would be, anybody here that believes they want to be a GP? And if you're brand new, you might not even know what that is. But if you believe that, if you know what it is and you want to be a GP in 2026, type in want to be a GP. So let me just pull up the chat here, see where we're at here. So we see not yet, newbies. So we got some newbies. We got some not yet multifamilies. We got some GPs. A lot of them are in my community. I see a lot of LPs. I see GPs. George Abro, nice to have you on. I see people GPs and LPs. And then look, a lot of people here want to be GPs. So that's good. That helps me know the audience. So again, this is going to be valuable for everybody. Okay. So again, what it's not is a goal setting workshop. What it is getting clear around the steps that you need to take for apartment investing. And again, I'm going to add in a little bit beyond. So this is what we're going to cover. And then I'm going to finish up with 10 reasons to get started right now. Okay. Because some people were sitting on the sidelines. Some people were waiting for like the Fed to cut rates more. Some people were waiting to see what happens with Trump's, immigration policies and tariffs. And look, it looks like, Trump has been here for a year. Like, we're starting to get used to his policies, including tariffs, including immigration, including ICE, including, all the things that are happening out there, the wars, the uncertainty in the world is, to me, kind of becoming the new normal, and life is going on. So, I don't expect any like major changes in 2026 with like interest rates and cap rates. I expect interest rates to come down a little bit. I expect cap rates to go down again a little bit, but not substantially. So I am going to be doing on February 4th, and mark your calendars, we haven't promoted this yet, but I'm going to be doing my annual apartment investor forecast and top market selection, and that's going to be on February 4th. So again, this is not that event either. So a little bit about me. I already shared with you, I was a newbie. I went to a real estate investing seminar 25 years ago. It was a 2-day class. It was $500. They offered a mentorship program, and I bought it, and I followed it precisely. And, there was a mentor, there was a coach, and I did what they told me to do. And I was able to go out and buy 32 units, and I started with no experience. Since then, I've had over 11,000 units. I've paid zero in federal tax since 2018. And because I started off with a mentor, I quickly decided, after I became financially successful investing in apartments, that I wanted to also be a mentor. So I started mentoring others in 2006 after having 5 years of experience and had already quit my job. And in 2013, started my own company and my own program. And my students are out there absolutely crushing it. And some of them are on here. I've created hundreds of millionaires, and I've created hundreds of people that have gotten started into the apartment investing business and that have scaled successfully into the apartment investing business. So that's what I'm most proud of. By far, I'm more proud of that than my own deals and my own accomplishments as an investor. This is a picture of my first deal. It was 32 units. This is a picture of my second deal. It was 30 units. And after buying these two properties, this one, and these are basically C-class properties with working class people, mostly Hispanic. I bought these deals. I bought this one in 2002 for just under $1 million. And I bought this one in 2003 for about $600,000. And I was making enough money just from 62 units that I was able to quit a $10,000 a month job. And the problem was I was out of money. So I used my own money and I used my life savings to buy 62 units. And then my third deal was a 250 unit, and I figured out how to do a syndication. So a syndication is when you buy a deal with not using your own money. I mean, I put my own money in syndications now that I have it. But that first syndication, I had very little money, if any, to put into a deal, but I had confidence, a track record, experience, and I had an investor network. You see, even back in 2002 and 2003, before social media, before meetup.com, before LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, we had something called in-person meetings, and we still have them. We have in-person events. And I was living in Houston, Texas, and I would go every month to in-person events, real estate networking events. And I would meet people, and I would tell my story, and I would tell them about what I was doing and why I was doing it, and how I bought 32 units and then 30 more units, and how I was able to quit my job. And I would have a line of people saying, Brad, if you ever find a deal, I'd like to consider investing with you. So that was my third deal, and that was a 250 unit. And since then, the vast majority of all of my deals over the next 20 years have been syndications. And I've done literally over 11,000 units. I don't own them all myself. I don't say, by the way, and you'll see a lot of people on social media saying, I own 10,000 units. It's like, no, you don't. You're a general partner and you have an ownership percentage in 10,000 units. So that's an accurate statement. Okay. So how many of you know what I'm talking about when you see somebody say, I own 5,000 units? And it's like, well, maybe there's some people that do, or maybe there's some families that do, but that's a vast minority. Okay. Most people that talk about how many units they own, they're a managing partner or they're a controlling partner, and they have many, many, many investors that they share that ownership with. So just to be clear on that. But I was able to quit my job after 62 units and then off to the races. This is interesting, by the way, because when I started in 2002 with 0 units, it took me 10 years to get to 1,000 units as a syndicator, meaning like I have an interest as a managing partner in 1,000 doors. But then the next 10 years, I was able to do 10 times that. And so not only do I understand how to get started in the business, I understand how to scale in the business. And so for those of you that have been to my in-person events or virtual events or my mentoring and mastermind programs, you're in good hands, because my program is for beginners, but it's also people that are anywhere here on the spectrum. So that's just a little bit about me. So look, and again, when I started, I had a very strong why. So when we get to like winning in apartments, everybody needs to have a powerful why. And even if you've already been doing apartments or you're already in my community, your why may change. At first it might be to make $5,000 a month, then it might be to make $10,000 a month. And maybe you quit your job, or maybe you helped to retire your spouse, but now you want to have both you and your spouse retired. And maybe you just had a baby and now you're thinking about building a legacy and a generational wealth plan. Or maybe you want to have a dream home. right? Or fund your retirement or pay for your kids' college education, which, oh my God, it's so expensive, or private schools. Okay. So you got to get clear on your why, and your why doesn't stay the same. So mine was really simple. It was get out of the rat race in 5 years or less. I read Robert Kiyosaki's books. I literally played the cash flow game in real life. I was an engineer with an MBA, and I was working to buy assets, and I chose multifamily assets as my vehicle, right? And I was able to get out of that corporate rat race in 3 years, not 5. My goal was 5, but I was able to get out in 3. And I was able to have the cash flow from my 62 units to pay for my lifestyle. And then it just went up from there. So I need to update this slide, by the way, because now it's been like 24 years of me figuring it out. And look, I'm still learning. Like, I don't know everything. I know a lot. I know more than most, but I don't know everything. And there's still things coming up that like I haven't seen before. But the other thing that I have is I have this vast network, peers and friends and colleagues with people that are still above me on the food chain that have tens of thousands of units. And I have access to some of these people. Plus, between me and my team, we have helped our students look at thousands of deals, and buy hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apartment communities valued at over $10 billion in almost, not every state, because there are some states that don't fit our recipe, but I think my students own properties in like 37 states in the United States of America. So we've seen a lot, and I'm still on the journey, and I believe that you never stop growing, and you never stop learning, and you never stop being a student in some capacity. So, like, what am I doing this weekend? It's great. I'm glad you asked. I am actually going to a goal setting workshop. That's right. I'm going to a goal setting workshop. And so I still work on myself, and I still go to events as an attendee. And I'll continue to do that because that's one of my secret sauces. That's one of my secret weapons, is I still invest in myself, even after all these years. And honestly, I've made tens of millions of dollars in this business, and I still invest in myself. And I still consider myself having a lot to learn. And the thing is, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. So that's just a little bit about me. And so when we talk about apartment investing and beyond, and we're going to dive into the apartment component here really quickly, but I, recently divided my life into 4 key components. And I just want to show you what some of those things are. And I want to encourage you to, whether you have these 4 or maybe you have 8. I used to have a pizza pie with 8 components, or a Tony Robbins wheel of life, where you divide your life into 8 different domains. And it could be money, career, business, your spouse, your kids, your family, your fun, your travel, whatever is the most important to you. Like, I encourage, and I simplified mine into 4 quadrants, faith, fitness, finance, fulfillment. So for me, apartment investing obviously comes under the finance piece, but it's not my only financial component. I run this company, which is a for-profit event and mentoring and mastermind community. So this is something that I put time and energy to, and trade time for money. I love it. It doesn't feel like work to me. So I have the mentoring company. I have a brokerage company. I have other investments outside of apartments. I focus on cash flow. I focus on appreciation. I focus on tax optimization. And I have some semblance of asset allocation and diversification, and I manage all that. So I literally have goals around all these things. I have goals to optimize my expenses in my coaching company. I have goals to hit I have revenue targets in my coaching company. I have revenue targets. Like, I have targets for exiting some deals. I have targets for stabilizing and preserving some deals. I have targets for investing in new deals. Okay. This just makes sense. I set up targets around my family, around friends, around travel. I wrote down 10 places that I have not been yet that I always wanted to go, and I have places like Bali or the Maldives or South Africa or Antarctica just, or Israel or the Dead Sea or the pyramids of Egypt. Like I haven't been to these. I've been to many, many places. I've been to 57 countries, but there's still a lot of places I haven't been. So I have goals around that. And I'm not going to do them all this year, but I'm going to do one of them this year. Does that make sense? And the other thing that I'm really down into is the fitness domain. I have goals around resistance training 5 days a week, yoga 2 days a week, walking 1 hour every day and getting 12,000 steps a day. I monitor my sleep. I have this ring is called an Aura ring. I don't know if you can see it. And it's other people have Whoop bands, WHOOP. But especially as you get older, sleep is there's like out of the 5 components of health: strength training, cardio, flexibility, nutrition, and sleep. And a lot of people ignore sleep. So I monitor my sleep, my resting heart rate, my heart rate variability. Okay. So pay attention to this kind of stuff, because what good is the money if you don't have your health? And what good is the money if you're not enjoying the ride? And then there's a faith component. Like for me, I'm Christian. I read the Bible. I pray. I spend some time in solitude. I live on the beach here in Miami. I love to go out to the beach as often as I can, ideally every day, even for 15 minutes. Not to just lay in the sun, but to I go out in the morning. I like to watch the sunrise. I bring my notepad. I write down like a Bible verse. Like I'm currently reading this book right now, and it's called, if you can see this book, it's written by Emmett Fox, and it's called Around the Year. And every day, every single day, there's one page that you read. Like here's January 13th, and January 12th. So every day I read something, and then there's usually some reference to a Bible quote in it. So this is the kind of stuff that I'm into. And I just wanted to share that before I dove into apartments, because again, the title of this was Winning with Apartments and Beyond. So does this resonate with anybody? Before we go into the apartments, I'd just love to check in with you. Like, what are some things that you guys are focused on? Just type it into the chat. What are some areas of your life that you're really down into and you're measuring? Tony Robbins says, if you want to improve something, you should measure it. Measure your body, measure your fitness, maybe measure your weight, measure your body fat, measure your waist, measure your VO2 max. Like whatever you want to improve, you measure. So just share with me some things that you all were focused on this year that you're committed to up leveling. Okay. So where are we? Let's get into the apartment stuff. I promised you would be done in the top of the hour. And so I got to keep moving. So, hey, look, if you're not excited about apartments, well, look, I know you're all excited about apartments, because if you weren't excited about apartments, you wouldn't be on tonight. Okay. So look, I want to share with you why I'm excited right now and in January of 2026. And at the same time, I want to address those of us that have been in the business for the last couple of years, and there's been a downturn. And so for those of you in that situation, I'm hoping this slide and this message resonates with you. Okay. Yes, there may have been some tough times, but imagine you're driving a car and you're trying to move forward to get to your destination, and you're not looking through the windshield. You're looking in the rearview mirror. Okay. So although if you have been into some deals and you have some challenges, and I've done a lot of deals, and I have a few that are still challenged from, buying in 2022 at the top of the market with variable rate debt and all those types of things that I'm working through. Okay. But if you get so caught up in that, and some of these things are, challenging situations, but if you get too caught up in it, it's like you got to keep your eye on the horizon to still reach your goals. Okay. And your goals are beyond apartments, but we didn't get into apartments. Like we got into apartments as a vehicle for financial freedom. And so you got to keep looking ahead. Okay. And so the reason that I'm excited right now, and these are the top 10, is that, and I'm not going to spend tons of time on this, but you all need to know that real estate is on sale right now. Multifamily apartment buildings are on sale as much as 20 to 30 or 40% from the peak in 2022. So we're getting deals now that, and I'm going to show you an example here in a minute. So just wait till we get to that example. I truly believe I don't know if we're at the exact bottom of the cycle, but we're near the bottom of the cycle. You know, maybe it's already bottomed out, or maybe it's just going to get a tad worse before it gets better, or maybe it's somewhere in between that. But we're not in the middle. We're not near the top of the market. Okay. And multifamily new projects are slowing down after a deluge of new supply hit. But the demand for multifamily housing is higher than virtually anywhere before. And you keep hearing the term in politics right now that the Trump administration is trying to combat. It's affordability. Okay. Prices have gone up everywhere. You know, and whether it's Trump's fault or Biden's fault or just the way we run our country, it doesn't matter. What it is affordability is an issue. And affordable housing is an issue. And buying homes has become less and less affordable. And I focus on providing apartment units for working class and middle class people making 50 to 80,000 a year. It's really hard for them to buy a house. You know, interest rates are still above 6%. They need a 700 credit score. They need to put 20 or 10 or 20% down, or they could just move into my apartment. Right. So we're providing a service that's in need. And we're seeing right now, like deals that used to get 40 offers are getting 2 or 3 offers on deals. So the competition is low. The terms are much more buyer friendly. And with this big, beautiful deal, we got back 100% bonus depreciation. And we're starting to see more deals pencil out and more deals getting under contract. And so when I talk about depreciation, in Trump's first term, they passed the 2017 tax cut. And that gave us tremendous depreciation benefits, but they were phased out by 2026. And then the big, beautiful bill that was passed in 2025 brought it back to 100%. So this bill is actually literally going to help make apartments great again. Okay. I'm not kidding you. So, because when you combine the cash flow from apartments, look, we don't get cash flow from stocks anymore. We don't get cash flow from Bitcoin. We don't get cash flow from gold. Like, where else do you get cash flow from? We get cash flow from apartments. We get appreciation from apartments, which we also get from these other asset classes, but we also don't get very good tax advantages from any of these other investments. So with apartments, we get cash flow, tax advantages, and appreciation. In most other asset classes, you don't get all three that way. So that's why apartments have been great from 2012 to 2022, and then they went through a 2-year downturn in a market cycle, and now we're back in business. Okay, so I want to reference a deal that one of my students is working on, and they actually asked me recently to come in as a co-GP with them. So it's going to be my first deal in 2026 as a GP. But this was a deal that was on the market for $11.5 million, and we have it under contract at $7 million. So in 2022, this deal would have probably sold for 12 or 13 million above listing price. And now we're getting it for like 40% off. Okay. So I just want to show you like a real deal that's in process. These are the kind of deals that are out there right now. Okay. So I want you to be aware of that. So I'm going to dive in here into the Sumrok sequence and the steps that you need to be taking to set yourself up for success. But before I do that, I just want to say, look, if you sit on the sidelines this year, you're going to regret it. Okay. Like a year from now, you're going to wish you had started today. So I do want to mention, before I dive into the Sumrok sequence, my next 2-day training event in Dallas is March 28 and 29. Okay. And it's all about apartment investing, where I'm going to teach you how to find deals, fund deals, close deals, manage deals, and exit deals. And you're going to walk out of that event with the skills and confidence to be more successful. And here's the deal. You can't buy a ticket, but what you can do is you could apply. And for those that are approved, and we approve your application in 24 hours, you get to come as my guest. So why am I do this? I want a curated room. Okay. The application takes 3 minutes, and I'm looking for people that are focused, committed, and ready to get started. I'm not looking for people that are on the fence and that are going to investigate 27 different asset classes or want to come to network. Okay, this is a training event. It's not a networking event. The magic happens in the room. So if you want to be in the room and you want to learn from me, and then there's no other speakers at this event. So this is not like the other events where you're going to see 20 different talking heads coming on and celebrity speakers. You know, there might be 50 to 150 people in the room, but I would rather have a curated room with people that want to learn, that are serious about investing, than having honestly, a 500 person event, shit show networking event. Okay. I'm not doing that kind of event. I've done them before, by the way, and they're fun. And I had DJs, and I had Damon John, Jesse Yitzler, Ed Milet, Grant Cardone. I've had all these people at my events. And right now it's going to be me and you. Okay. So you can't buy a ticket. You can text the word event to the phone number on the screen, 469-751-6577. Or you could just, there's a QR code here, but I made it bigger for you right now. You can scan that QR code, but don't do the application now. Like, do it when I'm done. But what you can do is send the text now. So if you want to do the text, and that way you'll get the application texted to you, let's take 30 seconds, and anyone that wants to apply to come as my guest, again, get your phones out, type in 469-751-6577, and type the word event. Also, you can take a screenshot. It'll bring you to an application, but do the application when we're done. Okay. So that's what I'm doing March 28th and 29th. And that's what the event is for. And that's why I'm curating who's in the room. Okay. So the Sumrok sequence, let me get all these 18 steps up here. Now, obviously at the event, I'm going to touch on all 18 of these steps at my event. I'm not going to touch them on tonight. Like, I do this in 2 days. I need you all to understand, like, it takes me 2 days to cover these. And it actually even takes me a year. Like, I have a 1-year mentoring and mastermind program that, like, to go through all this stuff in detail, like, takes even more than 2 days. But tonight we got an hour. Okay. So what's the Sumrok sequence? Well, you got to start off with your why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want financial freedom? You got to develop your personal financial statement. You got to understand the business model, define your criteria, your acquisition targets. Then you learn how to find deals, analyze deals. You got to know how to visit the property and what you're looking for and what to do and what not to do. Make the offer using an LOI. Negotiate the deal. Sign the contract for the deal, which is called a PSA, purchase and sale agreement. You do your due diligence, raise your capital, secure your loan, close the deal, manage the deal, exit the deal, hopefully celebrate. Look, most of my deals I've celebrated. I've had a handful that didn't go as planned. And I lessons learned. And then I take the lessons learned into step 18, which is repeat and scale. You know, learn, improvise, improve, repeat, and scale. So that is the Sumrok sequence, and that's what we're going to cover in the 2-day event. But now what I want to focus on here is what we need to be doing right now to make sure we're winning in 2026. And again, this is whether you have no experience, no real estate experience, if you're doing smaller deals and want to move into multifamily, or if you want to scale, and you've heard me speak 1,000 times. You know, sometimes you just need to hear it over and over again. Okay. I watch some of these recordings myself, and sometimes I'm like, Brad, you're not even doing all the things you're telling people to do. Like, I'm being honest, I'm being authentic, I'm human. Sometimes I do these and I'm like, oh shit, like, I need to do that. Or one of my mentoring and mastermind students will call me and I'll give them advice, and then I'll get off and I'll say, you know, I should do that too. Or not I should, but I will do that. Not I should or I need to. I will do that, and then I calendar it. See, there's a difference between saying I need to do it, I should do it, or I will do it, and then calendar it to make it real. So some of us need to be using more powerful language. and taking out should and need to and putting in, I commit to do this by when, and then you calendar it, or I will do it by when, and then I calendar it. And then you have somebody holding you accountable for that. Okay. So these are some of the things that it's going to take to win in apartments and beyond in 2026. Okay. So that's the Sumrok sequence. Now let's focus on the 5 or 6 things, the first 5 or 6 things here, because everybody could be doing this. So number one, and you've heard me say it 12 times already, but you got to clarify your why, and it could have changed. Okay. So let me ask you this. Why would you invest time, energy, and money to be an apartment investor? Okay. If your life is already gravy, if you're already thrilled with your job, if you're already making the income that you want, the impact you want, control your own schedule, and are paying no taxes, like, you don't need to do this, honestly. Okay. And so what apartments gave me is that within 3 years, I was able to replace a $10,000 a month job and then grow exponentially. I was also able to reduce my taxes, and I was also to work on my own schedule. So I not only had income, I had freedom, I had security, I had flexibility, I had freedom to live my life on my own terms. So what's your why for doing apartment investing? You know, and maybe it's for your family, maybe it's for a legacy, maybe it's for your charity, maybe it's for your church. Okay. But get clear on your why. Everybody could be doing this. This is not about New Year's resolutions. This is about clarity and winning. Number 2, okay, get clear on your financial position. Your personal financial statement is your financial report card. You should know what your net worth is. Your net worth, I mean, not just the definition. The definition is assets minus liabilities, but list out all your assets. What are they worth today? Or what are your businesses worth today? Or your LP investments or your GP investments? Like, figure out what they're worth at today's market value. Not what you invested in the deal, but what is it worth? Okay, today. And then I update it every quarter because valuations change. How much liquidity do you have? You know, if you needed to come up with money in 90 days, that's liquidity. It's not just money in the bank, but like, liquidity is usually like, could I get money from this investment out and use it for something else within a 90-day period? So typically it's not home equity. It's not liquidity. Maybe you could borrow against it. Maybe you could get a line of credit that you could use to invest or to use for an emergency fund or something like that. Maybe it's selling some stocks. It's money in the bank account. Okay. Money invested in apartment deals is not liquid. So you see, I have a percentage of my assets in apartments, and I have a percentage in other financial institutions that are more liquid. I could get a lot of money out within 90 days, not within 3 days, but within 90 days, I could access millions of dollars. Okay. And so when you get your financial position clear, now you could determine like the type of deal you're going to buy. If you're going to buy your own deal with your own money, you know, how many LP investments you want to make, how many GP investments you want to make, how much money you're going to invest of your own money into your deals, how much you need to raise, the type of partners you need. Like, do you need capital raising partners or operational partners, or like, so getting your financials in a row clear is power. Okay. It's going to show you where you're at financially and what you bring to the table. And if you don't bring a lot of money to the table, that's okay. But then you got to figure out, what else can I bring to the table? Could I bring deals to the table? Could I bring network to the table? Could I raise money to the table? Okay. So number 3, you got to understand the business model. We're not going to cover this tonight too much. We'll cover this in my future trainings. Okay. But this is a picture of the business model for any apartment building, whether it's 550 or 500 units. It's NOI divided by the cap rate equals the value of the property. So when you buy a deal, your goal is to get the value up. And we as owners don't change the cap rate that much. Like, the cap rate is like the inflation rate or the interest rate. The cap rate is determined by macroeconomics and microeconomics in your city. So it's like the cap rate is what it is. Okay. Like right now, cap rates are ranging like, from 5 to 8%, depending on the asset class and the location. So cap rates are what they are. So our job as investors is to buy the deal and raise the NOI so the value goes up. And the way we raise the NOI is we raise the income, and we could do that through rent increases and occupancy increases and non-rent revenue increases. And we could also do it by optimizing the expenses and paying attention to expenses and not being lazy or complacent and keeping our eye on the ball and making sure our expenses stay manageable. How do we do that? Getting different quotes, shopping vendors, getting 3 bids, challenging your taxes every year, challenging your insurance quotes every year. Okay, even if rates are going up, get multiple quotes. But you got to understand the business model before you invest in the business. And then you got to understand, this should be number 4, by the way. So that's number 3. This should be number 4, is you got to get clear on what you're going to invest in, where, the property size, the property class, and your target markets, and what type of returns you expect. And how do you know this? Well, you know this by, you got to make a decision to get inside the business and learn the business, and then you'll start learning all these things. Okay. So where are you going to buy, what you're going to buy? Like I was talking to a mentoring and mastermind student today, and he was looking at doing a 60-unit syndication. And he said, "Hey, Brad, I think I'm going to go after a 20-unit on my own." So that's a major shift, in his acquisition criteria. So he's getting clear around that. Like now he's going to target 10 to 30 units with his own money, whereas before he was going to do 80 to 60 to 100 in a syndication. And actually now he's going to do both. He's going to spend some of his time and energy still looking for that 60 to 100 unit, and another percentage of his time and energy looking for 10 to 30 units. And why? Is because he freed up a lot of time on his job, and he only works like 60 hours a month in his profession. So he's got more time, so he could have 2 areas of focus now, as opposed to 1. Okay. And then just to review this for some of you, and for some of you who are brand new, like when you decide where you're going to invest, I have a recipe for that. I love markets that are landlord and business friendly, the Sun Belt, like Texas, Florida, Atlanta, Carolinas, Tennessee, Arizona, Nevada, Ohio, in the Midwest, Indiana. Okay, I like landlord and business friendly. You want to be in an area that has above average job growth, above average population growth. Okay, there's no substitute for this. Okay, you could buy an average building in a great location is better than buying a beautiful building in a bad location. A bad location means it's not landlord and business friendly. People are moving out. Jobs are not being created. They're going away. Affordability gap. That's another thing. If the median price of a median house is $400,000 or $500,000 or $600,000, they're not going to be able to afford it. If a median price of a house is $100K, they're going to buy a house rather than rent your apartment. Seriously, this is why I don't invest in like certain markets, is because people talk about how cheap the apartments are there, but I'm like, yeah, they could go buy a $100,000 house right next to your apartment building, and they could have their own yard, and they don't have to share a wall with their neighbor. So like I like to buy in some of these markets where, yeah, the price might be a little higher for the property, but like people can't afford a house. They're renters by necessity. That's what I call the affordability gap. And then I also look for new supply coming online in that market as a percentage of inventory in the market. And you want to have a diversified economic base in the town that you're buying in, which means like if a huge percentage of the residents are going to be tied to one university, one military base, one automotive plant, and something happens to that one employer, then you're going to have a lot of people that can't pay your rent. Okay. So I like to look at that. So that recipe factors into defining your investment criteria. So look, everybody should be clarifying their why, updating your financial statement, making sure you understand the business model. And I've given you an avenue for that. Come to my event in March. It's free if you're accepted. Okay. Get clear on your investment criteria. And this is my recipe. And then you got to learn how to find deals. Okay. So you could go on LoopNet for free and look at deals. And there's a lot of other ways to find deals, your network, your relationships, online listing, brokers, but you got to learn how to find deals. And then when you find them, you got to learn how to analyze them. Okay. So look, I know that I've covered a lot here, but if you could just focus on these 5 things or 6 things, okay, your why, your financials, getting clear on your investment criteria, understanding the business model, learn how to find deals and learn how to analyze deals. And if you could do that, and if you're a beginner or transitioning into multifamily as a newbie or from other asset classes, and if you can do that this first quarter and you can master these 6 steps, you are going to be setting yourself up to win for the next 9 months of the year. I'll say that again. I'm going to go to this slide here. If you could focus on steps 1 through 6, okay? Now, some of you that are already in my community, I hope you're beyond that. Okay, but you may need to refresh yourself. So if you're already in my community, if you're already in the mentoring and mastermind community, if you have access to me, if you have access to one of my coaches, go through 1 to 6 quickly, or refine it. And then figure out where else you need help. And that's what we do for the people in my, 1-year programs. Okay, but if you're just getting started, if you're new to me, if you're new to multifamily, if you're new to real estate, focus on these first 6 between now and the end of March. Okay. And then again, let me get through this here. Come to my event and I'll show you about that again. And then the other thing I created is like, what is required, okay, to get started and succeed? Well, you need to learn a system. You need to learn the Sumrok Sequence. You need a property analyzer. You need some tools. So when you find deals, you know how to analyze them. You want to have some trainings on the Sumrok Sequence on some of these key concepts. You want to know your targets. You want to know your criteria. You want to know how many units you need to retire or quit your job or hit your financial freedom number, your why. You want to start building a network of investors and service providers, and you want to have confidence in knowing your next steps. So look, there's 2 things I actually want to make available to you. So one is the event. Okay. And I already talked about the event. So let's cover that again. So everybody should be doing this. March 28th and 29th, it's free. And all you got to do is send a text to event or scan that QR code and you come to my 2-day event if you're approved. If you're not approved, I will send you a personal video and let you know why you're not approved. Okay. But the survey takes 3 minutes. The application takes 3 minutes. So everybody should be doing that. So if you're applying for Rat Race to Retirement, I want to see in the chat who's applying. Go ahead, type in who's applying. And where could I see that, by the way? Where do I see that? Okay, there it is. Okay, I got a lot of people applying, so that's great. So look, there's something else that I have here, and some of you may be aware of this, so I'm going to go back into this. So on Black Friday and Christmas and New Year's, I created a package, and I've had it before Black Friday and Christmas and New Year's, but I sold it for $1,000. And so what I've done, and I'll just get to the nuts and bolts of this here, is I created a system so that people could get started right now. Okay. And so if you look at what's included in the system and you look down near the bottom, it says 2 tickets to a live event. So I know that I'm letting you come to my Rat Race event for free. Okay. In March, but you get to bring a guest if you invest in this system. The other thing you get is my property analyzer. So when you find deals, you're going to learn how to analyze them, and you get training. Okay. You get training on understanding the deal, a training module that I've personally done. So you're going to learn the business model. You're going to learn how to find deals, fund deals, and close deals. And then you're going to have my property analyzer and my financial freedom calculator so that you have your targets. And then my team is going to get with you to do a one-on-one call once you've done the trainings to outline your personalized next steps to the deal. So I was selling this for $9.97, and then Black Friday and Cyber Monday, I did it for $4.97. And I was overwhelmed with people that wanted it. So I did it for Christmas, and then I did it for New Year's. So what I'm sharing with you is I'm extending the Black Friday and Christmas and New Year's pricing until early. I don't know when I'm cutting it off, but probably by the end of January. Okay. So look, everybody that applies gets to come to the event for free. But if you want more than that before March 28th and 29th, which if you're committed and you're aggressive and you have the time and energy to watch 4 training modules, okay, and hit the ground running, and this is a complete system. Like, you're going to learn a lot of what you need to be successful. You're going to have some tools, some trainings, the property analyzer, and a one-on-one coaching call. And it's less than, $500, $497. So you can invest in the R2R system. Sumrok team, I don't know if I have a QR code for this. Could we put a QR code for the R2R system into the chat box? Let me see if I have one, actually. Do I have one? I do. Let me share it here. I'm going to share screen. If you see this code right here, this one right here, could you see that? I think that is, could someone on the Sumrok team check that one? Does that bring you to the A to A system? Could anybody tell me? Hello, hello, hello. Okay. There it is right there. Okay. So that is the QR code. Go ahead and make a $500 investment. Here's the thing. If you buy the system, I guarantee you that you'll be approved to come to the event. If you don't buy the system, I'm going to review your application. If you buy the system, I want you in the room because I know you're committed. Okay. So if you buy the system, you get to bring you and a guest to the March 28th and 29th event. And if you can't make that one, by the way, I'm going to do one every quarter. So if you buy the system, you get to bring 2 people to the event. You get my property analyzer, and you get 4 one-hour trainings that I've personally done. So that's one way to get started, and you can get started right now because you'll have immediate access to the trainings. Okay. The other way is you apply to come to my event. That event is still like 10 weeks away. So you should be doing that, but I want to extend to you this A to A system at the holiday pricing, because I know some of you are going to want to hit the ground running, and you're not going to want to wait until March 28th and 29th to learn the skills necessary to be a successful apartment investor. So you have 2 options. And I know the way this is going to go down, a lot of you are going to apply for Rat Race, and a handful of you are going to buy the system, and that's fine. For those of you that buy the system, you're not going to regret it. The trainings are done by me. The property analyzer is the same tool that I've used to buy 11,000 units. And it's the same tool that is included in my mentoring and mastermind community that they use. And they pay $20,000, $25,000 to be in that mentoring and mastermind community. So this is it, man. This is what it's going to take to win. Okay. And I've covered different areas of life, and I've covered apartments, and I've covered why I'm excited. And I hopefully everybody here, whether you see me again or not, you have some actionable strategies that you can take away from this. If you have some actionable strategies from this free event, just type in yes. Like, I just want to make sure, like, I'm not just here to, get you to come to my event. Like, yeah, I want you to come to my event because I'm passionate about helping other people do what I've done. If all I wanted to do was make money, I'd do deals. Doing deals puts money in my bank account. Helping other people do deals does something for my soul. So hopefully you all got value from it. And then there's one other thing. You've all heard me mention my mentoring and mastermind community. I'm not here to talk about that tonight. It's $25,000 for 1 year. It includes unlimited coaching, live events, Zoom events. And if anybody is interested in having a discussion around that, just type into the chat mentoring, and I'll just have somebody contact you, and we'll just have a one-on-one conversation around that. Okay, so the price is $25,000. So don't type in mentoring to think you're going to get it for free or for $500 or whatever. If you have $500, buy the A to A system. If you want to come to my event for free, apply it to Rat Race to Retirement. And if you're interested in mentoring, where you have access to me, my personal phone number, to my 11 millionaire coaches, to 4 events per year, to unlimited coaching calls, into 18 online training modules, type in mentoring. Okay. And we'll contact you and have a discussion around that. So, yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's any questions in here. And, Jay, do you also want to throw up one more time the slide on the R2R application, please? Could you do that, Jay, if you're still on? Yeah. So Laura, do I recommend taking money from existing property to buy another property? I would need more information on that. It really depends. Really depends. Yeah. So the event is in Dallas, Texas, by the way. So Jay, is this event? You could just type in, yes, Jay, is this QR code the one? Yeah, this one is, this QR code will bring you to the Rat Race to Retirement application, which the Rat Race to Retirement is the name of my 2-day training event in March. Okay. So we talked about 2 things tonight, 2 actions for you to take besides the actionable items that I gave you, with getting clear on your why and updating your financial statement, or perhaps doing it for your first time. Getting clear on your acquisition criteria, understanding the business model, and starting to find deals and learn how to analyzing deals. And that's why I shared with you my A to A system, which does all that and more. So for those of you that want to hit the ground running now, buy the $500. Like, look, don't eat out. If you say I don't have the money, it's not true. Don't eat out for a week and you'll have $500. Stop drinking for a week and you'll have $500. I'm not drinking the whole month of January, and I can tell you I've already saved like $1,000 from restaurants and alcohol. Okay, I'm doing dry January and maybe longer. So if you just stop eating out and take care of yourself and focus on your fitness and your nutrition, and don't drink for a little while, the $500 will come like that. So that just paid for your A to A system. Okay. So yeah. So Domenico, I have purchased program at higher price earlier. So just send us an email, Domenico, to support, or someone will contact you, because all the chats are saved in our log. So I'm not sure what you're referring to, but you just got an answer here. Somebody, yeah. So look, Laura, if you purchased the program, yeah, I think I remember you in LA. So if you purchased the program and you haven't been to R2R, yes, you could attend. Like I said, if you bought the program, like, I know you're committed and I remember who you are, like, you could attend the event, but we still need your registration. So get with my team, or my team, somebody get with Laura to make sure she comes to the March Rat Race event. Yeah. And any of you at any time, if you bought the A to A system for Black Friday, for Cyber Monday, for Christmas, or for New Year's, you get to come to Rat Race as well, but we need you to claim your ticket. So my team is supposed to be contacting you about that, but you could also contact us at support@bradsumrock.com and say, hey, I invested in the A to A system. We'll double check to make sure we have you in our system. And then you get to bring yourself and one other person to the Rat Race event. So let's get that going. Okay. I'm going to finish up. I'm past the top of the hour, but let's make this first quarter like what you do this first quarter. I'm telling you, man. Okay. What you do this first quarter is going to set the stage for the next 3 quarters. Okay. So be in action, be committed, get clear on your goals and go beyond departments. Okay. Yes, apartments are important, finances are important, investing is important, money is important, but there's other domains in your life that are just as important or even more important. So don't forget about those things. Okay. I'm going to let you all go. Good night and happy new year, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.